Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett has outlined a 5-point strategy for recovery of the sector as part of efforts to reopen the industry amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. He outlined the details at a digital media briefing this morning, which includes protocols to withstand local and international scrutiny, training for all sectors, and new behavior patterns. It also includes strategies to build out the COVID security infrastructure.
Communications with the local and international markets. And this is a very important part of our considerations. And already we are on a number of international circuits talking about Jamaica's preparedness and our readiness. We're making contact with the trade media and making sure that they understand what we are doing here and how we are preparing to ensure that the next wave of visitors into our shores will respond and reflect the necessity for the new demographics that are emerging from the COVID-19 experience.
Mr. Bartlett also noted that strict protocols are being looked at for airlines.
What type of protocols are to be implemented there? What are the gadgetry and equipment that are going to be required to ensure that COVID security that we boast of ensuring for our destination? We're looking also at how to work with Ministry of Health in all aspects of ensuring that testing and tracing as a key part of their responsibilities is enhanced within the tourism sector, because we want to make sure that all our tourism workers and indeed the communities that are around the tourism plants are as protected as is possible.
Meanwhile, the Jamaican government is being cautioned to put adequate plans in place when it's deciding to allow incoming passenger flights. O'Shane Masters reports.
With the closure of Jamaica's borders to incoming passenger flights, except Jamaican nationals, the tourism sector has been taking a battering as hotel rooms and other attractions reel from significant losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But are there greater risks for the Jamaican economy when the government decides to remove the restriction on incoming passenger flights? Well, United States Ambassador to Jamaica, Donald Tapia, believes so. However, he says once the requisite protocols are in place, those risks could be minimized. Ambassador Tapia, who was speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica on Wednesday morning, said he's in discussions with Jamaica's tourism ministry and the airlines to ensure that adequate plans are in place to keep the COVID-19 curve flattened.
We don't want to open too soon, but at the same time, we need to take a look at when the curve flattens and so forth. Taking a look at from the area of what it will give us the fastest return on our on the Jamaican dollar or on the economy in the U.S. and also in Jamaica. Of course, Jamaica is predicated on tourism. 70% of your gross national product is based on tourism. So that's something that we've got to take a strong look at, because tourism is not going to you just don't turn the switch on as you would a factory.
Mm-hmm. Another mechanism is that of carrying out temperature checks of passengers, but that, he notes, bears its own risks.
The airlines cannot test because it's a responsibility. It's a liability responsibility for them. But at the same time, at the airport, there's no reason why the Jamaican government cannot test, at least for temperature. But keeping in mind that we had one case here where, in fact, it happened to be our young lady here at the embassy. She tested positive for a temperature, and then a day and a half later, 2 days later, her temperature went away. So keep in mind that you can actually not have a temperature and be carrying the coronavirus.
Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett has said a date will be announced soon for the reopening of Jamaica's tourism industry. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And political commentator Richard Crawford says the government should look to sectors such as manufacturing and farming to help boost economic growth. This as bars and churches will reopen soon.
One thing that is on the horizon must be how are you going to, and you must find a way to produce significant amounts of food, which has another effect. It will help to keep down the import cost of food into Jamaica. And interestingly, I was reading a statement just made by the Prime Minister of Trinidad, where he was arguing that one of the problems in Trinidad was that they don't have land, which means that Trinidad has oil, yes, but what would be good is that since they do not have the land, and obviously a country like Jamaica relatively has land, a partnership should be forged because Trinidad has the manufacturing and processing capacity for the growing of food in Jamaica and using it to be processed in Trinidad.
Bus and taxi operators make up the majority of persons who have applied to government for a general grant due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Data from the Finance Ministry show that of the over 34,500 applicants, 15,182 transport operators applied. Market vendors, bar operators, and early childhood educators are also included in the list of applicants. In the meantime, those persons who gave wrong information to receive the compassionate grant can make corrections.
If there was an error in a bank account, the applicant can go online and click on the Check My Status tab, and the applicant can update the banking information or select a remittance company, but the payment wouldn't be automatic after that. That new information would have to be validated, and then it joins the queue after revalidation. It has to be batched and then paid. So it wouldn't necessarily be paid at the same time as those that were correct from the beginning.
And with crowding in areas for persons to collect compassionate grants, the opposition spokesman on finance has welcomed the decision for Western Union to move some of its operations to the National Stadium.
I hope that those mitigating steps will be effective and humane in their application. We've seen large crowds of persons who've had to wait for long periods of time to collect this $10,000. I noticed in the statement you say that you're considering, Minister, exploring mechanisms for third-party collections for persons over 65 years old. I hope that will also be extended to persons with disabilities, because I know that, and you're aware, we've had dialogue on that persons with disabilities.
So far, government has paid approximately $2.65 billion in compassionate grants to roughly 265,000 applicants through financial institutions. 5 persons, including a woman, were arrested and charged in St. Thomas on Monday for breaches of the Disaster Risk Management Act after they were caught at a party. According to police reports, between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., a team from the St. Thomas Police conducted a snap parade in the Arcadia community where a round-robin party was being held. About 70 persons ran into nearby bushes and escaped, leaving behind food, speaker boxes, and amplifiers. The woman, 51-year-old Megan Ferron, who was the promoter of the event, was arrested and charged. She was also slapped with additional charges of breaches of the Spirit License Act and breaches of the Noise Abatement Act. The 4 men, 25-year-old Andre McFarlane, 23-year-old Taj Barrett, 28-year-old Don Gordon, and 28-year-old Alden Richards, were arrested and charged for breaches of the Disaster Risk Management Act. All 5 are from Arcadia in the parish. They are scheduled to appear before the St. Thomas Parish Court in Morant Bay on July 8. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have much more stories right after these messages. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. Some 13 vendors and their stalls were removed from the streets of Trelawney Tuesday morning. They were asked to relocate to the market. However, vendors say there is a fee attached to the market, and because of the distance, they are not getting enough customers.
It's not fair. They do not ready for the town. It is not easy to walk go all the way down. You know. It's $1,000 to pay go down. It's $1,000 to pay comes up. And where should we get that $1,000 to pay a cartman to deliver our goods down and up? Nobody now come down there to come buy nothing. You know. Nobody now put on them clothes and walk in a sun and come buy nothing. Nothing. If we not come up here so we can't eat $1.
I'm here selling only for 6 years now. Usually pay bill every week pay $2,000. Every week usually pay $2,000. And then they give back no benefit out tight. For the country around here now. And then come them take up them this them that way blah blah. We just wait for. I don't know sell, I don't know sell. Nothing I sell want to bother to go to the market. Yeah, pressure poor we don't have pressure and we don't have the money.
According to Mayor of Falmouth, Colin Gager, the vendors have been obstructing other businesses and creating a cluster which is likely to spread COVID-19. He says the market has been adjusted to adhere to the physical distancing guidelines and appealed to vendors to use it.
Asking that you abide by the rules of the local authority. You stay within the compounds of the market and you sell your stuff there. Allow people to walk freely in the town. Allow the businesses who is in the town to flourish. We don't want people tripping over your goods on sidewalks. We don't want you to block the entrance to people's business places within the town.
A global pandemic and no water. That's the reality for some residents of Anchovy in Port Antonio, Portland. They are calling on the authorities to explain why they have been without the commodity for weeks.
These are the water containers some residents of Anchovy showed our news team on Tuesday. They have been living without water for almost 2 months. Although they acknowledged that water trucks have been in the area, they say it appears the trucks only supply water to certain locations.
My biggest concern is that every water truck full the water in Anchovy. And we don't have any water around here, sir. But every water truck, full out at the Anchovy gate. And we in the back here can't get no water. Everybody have pipe. Sometimes for 13 weeks we'll have no water.
But there's no water being trucked to this area. And even when the water has been trucked, there's only a certain set of individuals getting water. It seems like we're getting colored water, we're getting orange water and green water, which we don't want that water. We want the water that God provides for us. Because we need to take care of our family and we need to live in a sanitary area.
And despite the absence of water, they say they are still receiving bills.
It's a me water rate. Me get 2,000 something, sometimes 3,000 something. Me get free water rate.
And you're not receiving any water in the pipe?
No.
And yet when the truck comes?
Then pass way. Because they don't know we. They know everybody is. Some get, some don't get.
And the water bills are not their only expense.
When the trucks come, we still have to pay for the water. We are paying at least $5,000 to fill a 1,000-gallon tank, which is impossible. That's almost two months water rate.
Even though you show your...
Even though we still have a long list of bills like this that we've been paying. Everybody have the bill. These are my bills that I save. And this is just a couple. What does that mean is that when you turn on the pipes, there's here coming through the pipe, and that even triggers the meter to spin. And we keep paying for here and no water.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Several councillors were left disappointed as a result of yesterday's Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation meeting. The order of the day, a resolution which seeks for additional funding to rehabilitate roads in different divisions. Councillor for the Maxfield Division, Dennis Gordon, explained that the allocation for councillors is not enough.
Based on historical data, motor vehicle licensing accounts for 16% of the total budget, or 720 million. The SGR and the administrative deduction represent 25% or 180 million. And this is only the motor vehicle licensing portion. So the approximate 300 million, your worship, that is a portion now to each division at a paltry 7.5 million per annum, is woefully inadequate to fix roads.
He believes an additional $12 million would be sufficient.
One of our biggest challenges as councillors is the constant complaint about bad roads. And every one of us in here have personal experience with our own front end when we drive these roadways. Your worship, it is not unreasonable to ask for an increase in the allocation of 12 million.
However, the resolution was shot down by some councillors.
We have had the discussion at the Finance Committee meeting. All the JLP councillors, they have endorsed that move. Matter of fact, they signed off on 15 million then. Obviously, the political whip has cracked, and we'll have to live with that. All I'm just saying is that all these councillors has to realize that they believe that they shouldn't be fixing roads in their division.
The resolution was voted down based on party lines. It was quite unfortunate because the resolution was a real common sense resolution asking for more monies out of the PRF so as we can fix more roads. The JLP councillors use politics to shoot down the resolution. It is really unfortunate.
Nurses at the Port Antonio Hospital in Portland were treated yesterday by members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force for their hard work in helping to keep the nation healthy, especially with the risk of COVID-19. O'Shane Masters has more.
Helen Kelly said, "Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much." Well, that's what happened in the parish of Portland yesterday as nurses at the Port Antonio Hospital were treated in song from members of the Portland Police. This was in observance of International Nurses Day. The gesture was even more welcoming as the country continues to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Data revealed by the Ministry of Health shows that currently the island has 507 cases. Of that number, 7 are from Portland.
Despite our challenges, yes, I was overwhelmed. Certainly it was unexpected because it is the first that a superintendent or even the police have joined forces to come on board and to serenade the nurses. And it was heartfelt. We really appreciate it.
The Director of Nursing Services, Kerry Ann Bryan Anderson, labeled the fight against COVID-19 like being in the military.
The nurses, despite the fact that they are caring for these positive persons, they know that they are caring for them, knowing that they are wearing the right equipment, and so their chance of contracting the virus would be less. You know, they care for these patients and try to make themselves as jovial as possible while doing it in the midst of this pandemic.
For head of the Portland Police, the gesture is to strengthen the relationship between the medical fraternity and the security force.
We are all on the front line, and I see this as a great opportunity to show them that we are there for them.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And time now for a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the health report, we look at COVID-19 and depression.
So this put a lot of stress on every individual. Our routine for the day has effectively changed completely. Where we used to touch and hug each other, now where it's social distances, you have to be far away from each other. So with the stressors that have increased, our mental state is changing. So
that's the health report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. Develop a strong support network. Avoid negative thinking. Keep up household chores. Develop good nutrition and get enough rest.
In news overseas, in response to the COVID-19 crisis in the United States, House Democrats unveiled the largest relief bill in history, sparking immediate friction from the Republican-held Senate. Details from the CNN.
What Nancy Pelosi is proposing will never pass the Senate.
A warning from Senate Republicans to House Democrats on their next proposed coronavirus stimulus bill. The price tag, more than $3 trillion, making it the largest relief package in history.
It's got so much unrelated to the coronavirus, it is dead on arrival here.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi jabbed back, saying time is of the essence.
But the families who are suffering know that hunger doesn't take a pause, the rent doesn't take a pause, the bills don't take a pause, the hardship of losing a job or tragically losing a loved one doesn't take a pause.
Now, facing an outbreak in the White House, Vice President Pence is distancing himself from President Trump.
The Vice President has made the choice to keep his distance for a few days, and I would just note that that's his personal decision to make that.
Across the country, in the nation's largest county, Los Angeles, stay-at-home orders are expected to be extended through July with a gradual easing of restrictions.
Our hope always is that we're able, by using the data, to be able to lift restrictions slowly over the next 3 months.
And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.